turabanza kwakira Albert Rudacimburwa kuri contact.
Mr. President, we just came from a combined armed exercise, and you are also mentioning more than 100% in Rwanda, in a context that in the region things are moving, in the region where we are not, the security of some of our citizens have been threatened in some circumstances, and some people threatening outside Rwanda. I think maybe it's an opportunity to tell us more what you meant by more than 100% secured. And also on the same, I would say the same question, could you give us more clarity in our future relationship with South Africa, while we see in the media that there could be some elements trying to derail the normalization? And while we are on there, do you have any comment on the exchange of some heads of states that has been leaked through social media in the region?
Okay. For the combined arms military exercise that took place in Gabiro. Gabiro is a barracks. It's a place where our forces live and do different kinds of trainings to do with their profession. So that kind of exercise is not the first of its kind. It's one in a series of them that have taken place every year, in actual fact. And it happens normally after some of our forces have been in that place doing training. So the exercise follows a period of training of armed forces, as was the case last time. So on that point, it's normal, it's routine. It's the way it happens for a long time. If you're talking about that happening in a time when other things are happening, that's when I could tell you that whatever that is, it wasn't our plan. It isn't our plan that the things are happening against us. No, it's a routine that keep doing things, but if they coincide when a number of things are happening, then that's maybe why you would raise such a question, or even what I said was partly routine, and some of it coincided with what was happening. Ordinarily, the armed forces are there to defend the country, the sovereignty of a country. They are there and they must prepare, they must train, they must be equipped, so that's what we do, like any other country does. But let me go to the point of what you and me and anybody else read in the media or hear people say that is happening in the region. Our country, and especially the recent one, if I may just refer to the period 25 years of history, the recent one, we have had security challenges, have had political challenges of reconciliation, of rebuilding the country, and so on and so forth. Political, social, economic challenges have been plenty for the last 25 years. And the constant in that has also been that security challenge that we have to deal with the people who were behind the tragedy our country faced 25 years ago. And the same people responsible of all kinds. They are not just Rwandans. There are others across the world who have been linked with that history, with what happened. No question about it. Much as the perpetrators were specifically Rwandan, against Rwandans. So, as a number of years back, it has come and gone in the last 25 years. We have had invasions from outside, from neighboring countries. We have responded and crossed the borders ourselves in the past. So those challenges have simply been changing form, but they remained in substance as a security threat. You know very well FDLR that is still scattered across the region, outside of borders. Then there are other groups that have come up and joined them, initially something else. And I've heard of something called RNC, I've heard of, they have all kinds of names, I can't remember all of them. All I know is that and when it comes to us, to our history, we don't take any security challenge lightly. We don't. Do they say beaten once, twice shy? So we have had our taste of it. We wouldn't want to be found wanting in terms of taking care of that security business. Big or small, we'll take care of it. So we have these people scattered in our neighborhoods around us, in the region, others far away, disguised as political activists, all kinds of politics. We can still tell a difference. Can tell the difference. Those who are directly what they are, there are others disguised, and even those who help them, those we know who help them directly and they don't hide it, then there are others who help them but hide it and call it something else. Call it helping people who are involved in the political struggles, even though we sometimes have to remind them that still, that would not be their business. Because if they think it is their business, then are they inviting us to make it our business to get involved in their politics? Every country has its own politics. It has its own challenges. But ordinarily, you leave those challenges to any country that has them, or there are ways in which outsiders get involved in that, depending on the level and the nature of the problem that there is. But ours has not been a challenge that requires external involvement, except for simply showing that somebody thinks it is their business, but then that has its own associated problems. But our job is simple. Our job is not to get involved in other people's business or affairs or security or politics or something. Our business is straightforward. It is to mind our business and make sure that we deal with our challenges here in the country, even those who threaten our security. We are humble enough to understand our limits and limitations. So we stick to doing things here in our country. We will wait for that problem here. We don't need to pursue that across any border. We have done that many years ago because that was the only alternative we had. But since then and going forward, I don't see that coming up. We will take care of our business here in our country, not anywhere else. We will use the law. We will also use other legal means or other activities backed by legal means to deal with any of such challenges. So that's really the context and to explain your point, what it's all been. Then the second question you mentioned.
If you have any comment on leaked exchanges from regional heads of states on the situation that impacts the East African community also, and then South Africa.
No, I think that is answered in all
Okay,
that.
all
The
right,
first
okay.
part, I can talk about South Africa.
Yeah, South Africa.
Yeah, I think that is what may be different. For the South African part, for me, it's a bit confusing. It confuses me, and I have let those who can handle it at their level handle it. It's confusing in a sense that it also, in a way, relates to one point I've made in the first explanation, because it was brought to my attention, something was said by the Minister of Foreign Affairs of South Africa in some interview from nowhere, because I don't know what sparked it, where I was saying she met, whether she invited people or whether she went to them, I don't know, but she met the RNC people, some of whom live in South Africa, and it has been a problem we have discussed for a long time with the South African government. And I thought that was being taken care of on the side, and so that it doesn't really interfere with the most important things we should be doing together as countries. So we were not even pursuing anything. We were not bothered because we had raised it enough and we had discussed it with the right people in South Africa, and people concerned on both sides were the normal relationships we should be having. And been building a good relationship going forward. The government of Rwanda and so on and so forth. Now, if it was actually normal, we can talk about dialogue, we can talk about that sounds good. But what was not normal, as it came to my attention when I saw it, was that anything like that would first come through the. There hasn't been any communication about it, about the meeting, about the surprise, about anything out of the media. In fact, when it was brought to my attention, I asked some of our officials, I said, were you aware of anything that has been building up to this? There hasn't been a single moment of discussion on that matter. So I tried to ask them, so what do you think is the problem? Then a long story, which I just don't want to repeat here. But to cut the story short, then, it becomes that thing where some individuals, even working for government, may think they would rather deal with some groups or some individuals outside of any country or country's government, and prefer that to actually relating to government. That was my interpretation, my immediate interpretation, until to say, no, I think this is a group, when it comes to Rwanda, these are people to deal with, and not with the government. Or I want to have these people talk to this government. But then the question is, how does it become your business? What business do you have in that? The only business I know would have been to actually find out or even get rid of these people who are getting in between these two countries and damaging their relationship. I think that was, come to think about it quickly, that's what I thought. So again, our stance has been, let's wait it out and see how this should not worsen a bad situation, if there was a bad situation in the place, or it shouldn't really take much of our time throwing at each other all kinds of things. But I understand then later on, following that first issue I raised, that on Twitter there were all kinds of exchanges and so on and so forth about it, that our Minister of State is alleged to have said something insulting the Minister of Foreign Affairs of South Africa for having made that initial presentation in the media. So even when that came up, I asked that I actually wanted to know, under any circumstances, why would people have exchanged insults? Why would our Minister of State for Foreign Affairs have insulted the Minister of Foreign Affairs of South Africa, or anybody for that matter? Then I said, what did he say? What is it? They say it is a tweet, which was insulting. I said, please, tweets can be seen. Can you show me the tweet? I want to see it. I want to see really for real what it is. From that time of the allegation and the outbursts and so on and so forth, nobody has seen the tweet. Nobody. I ask you, actually, you people here, whether you have seen it. I may benefit from your own thing. Nobody has seen it. What has been seen when I asked, in fact, I happened to be somewhere out of this country attending a meeting, and I ran into somebody from South Africa and said, what is this going on? He said, no, there is an insight. I said, can you help me, please, find me something? He said, yes, I'll give you something. In fact, I was with one of my assistants, Patrick. Caroleta is here. He stayed with this person. I said, I'll show you what actually. So when he comes back, he brings me something that is not a tweet, but some blog written by this fellow called Himbara in Canada, quoting some newspaper, I think, called Rushasha, that Rushasha wrote something alluding to Olivier insulting the Minister of Foreign Affairs. This is the closest we have come to getting something of an insult from a Minister of State of Foreign Affairs, our own, insulting the South African Minister of Foreign Affairs. It is Himbara's own presentation, quoting Rushasha, and by the way, Rushasha being called my newspaper. They specifically mentioned my name, that the Rushasha, a newspaper called Rushasha, belonging to Kagame, President Kagame, wrote something nasty about what Olivier said about. This is the only thing available to us, at least to me. Maybe they still whether, but if our own people are keeping some things away from me, I wonder why South Africans would be keeping away things from me when they want us to understand that what we did was not correct. So this is what some hot air running around started from wherever. So this is what, when it comes to this, and I'm saying I don't really get it, then newspapers in South Africa, I think, pick it and start saying all kinds of things, twisting it here and there. So what I'm telling you, go find out. I'm stating to you facts as I understand them, and I have had the trouble to try and understand what is going on. If there's anything different from that you think are facts, I would want to hear from you. So otherwise, for the neighbors who keep writing things about us, we have had neighbors also who provoke us, and one time they cross our borders, and I've even had a few of our people killed, like last time on our southern border. But let me tell you, I have said this publicly, that we aren't going to be moved by any amount of provocation. If it is provocation, we see it for what it is, and I think there are more important things for us to do here, but we just need to secure our borders, and and keep there until somebody finds us here, then we will sort that out. So I think I have given you the answers you wanted.
Turafati Times.
Mr. President, my name is Ethan Tashabia. I work with the New Times.
With?
The New Times. We see many young Africans still crossing to Europe, seeking green pastures, only to find even harsher realities abroad. What do you think could be the best way to solve this issue, and also on the relationship between Africa and Europe? Thank you.
I mainly think we should solve the problem at the source. It doesn't matter that we could also solve problems at the other end, but I think we need to start from home, at source, meaning in our own countries, we should do everything we can, and I know every country is trying their best to address the social, economic, political problems for the country's development. And that is the first thing that can help retain our young people and keep them here, so that if they are to go out to Europe or to any other part, then that happens in an orderly manner, in an orderly fashion, where you are not having to deal with a wave of people fleeing their countries under any pretext. Or some of them are not excuses or pretexts, but they may be genuine, but they can also be addressed genuinely without having to result into problems. So that is, for me, addressing it at source is very important. Then collaboration, let's say what affects Europe, between Europe and Africa, people can work together and say, okay, those who are there, already there, who have arrived, how do you treat them? Can we understand that they need to be treated humanely? And some of them can even be facilitated to come back. Why not? They should come back home to different countries where they of their origin. And those who are to stay, it's up to those countries who have received them to decide whether they stay and how they stay, and we can, and then those ones who haven't left, we can work to do. They have security, they have all kinds of things that enable them fulfill their aspirations, so they stay. That is, I don't find any other magic of dealing with that particular problem.
With your permission, Your Excellency, we can take the next question from our colleague from Zambia.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for this opportunity. My name is Ruth Kanyanga Kamwi. I work for the Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation, but I also write for an online publication called Swinger, which is an initiative of Women in Media Network under the Gresham Michelle Trust. My question comes to you in your capacity as chairperson for the African Union. I know that the International Planned Federation has been courting the African Union with proposals.
Which is that?
The International Planned Parenthood Federation.
Okay.
Yes. Has been courting the African Union with proposals to entice member countries to avail family planning furniture, that is contraceptives, to young people of school-going age. And their justification is that the AU 53, which borders on harnessing the demographic dividend. And we are seeing quite a good number of young people, more especially girls, dropping out of school as a result of early pregnancies, which also results into early marriage. So what is your take as chairperson for the African Union and also as Rwandan president?
I don't know if I understood your question correctly. First, Planned Parenthood, right? I like planned anything. If for anything, if you put your thoughts into planning, it means you know you are defining the problem, you understand it, you are finding, you are trying to find resources, you are trying to do something, and then toward a certain goal or a certain outcome. So I like that. I'm happy to have people who have children, and then, but having those children is on the basis of planning for them and for their future. But in planning for your children, I think you've already made plans even for yourself. You know how you move into the future with your children and others. So that's a very good thing. It shouldn't even be some institution which deals with it. Actually, every country should be emphasizing it for its citizens to have this planning, which planning goes whichever way the society in point chooses to go, or whichever way the family chooses to go. But under this umbrella of planning and as a national program, I think it's the best thing, and it contributes to us. We think that it contributes very well to whatever agenda, national or continental, including Agenda 2063. Demographic dividend, first of all, this demographic issue, if it arises out of good plans, then it's going to be more of a solution to many things we have than a problem. And therefore, and you have in mind may to be attained more easily. So that is my take, and it is a message I would put forward to colleagues and other leaders on the continent.
With your permission, Your Excellency.
It's something? What?
Your Excellency, she asked also about availing teenagers, I think.
Well, you have to determine whether in your planning, that's maybe I didn't miss that, but because in the planning you decide what tools to use. Has a country decided, I can't tell each country to approach it in the same way, right? But if contraceptives are part of, are a result of this planning a country has gone through, it's up to those countries to do whatever they want. I have no one solution fitting all the problems related to that, right? Yeah.
Mubyemeye nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika, twafata ikibazo kimwe cya nyuma.
Let's have as many as we can.
Turakira mugenzi wacu muri RBA.
Thank you so much, sir. My name is Eddie Sabiti. I work for Rwanda Broadcasting Agency. I would like you, sir, with your permission, to bring you to local matters or politics, and specifically to the Rwigara's case. There has been talk from the, usual Western critics that they are critical of Diane Rwigara is something that was done under pressure. How do you personally respond to this?
My response starts with your question. Pressure from who? Who is in that position to put pressure on anyone to deal with this case? I don't know. So that's why, for the pressure part, I would not bother much with it. What I know, to the best of my knowledge, pressure does not work very well with us. We don't work on pressure from anyone. So I think you can look elsewhere. Maybe you may find an answer as to the handling of Rwigara's case, or even to understand Rwigara's case in the first place. There are many, many questions around it and a lot of answers, but it doesn't take much of my time, and I don't intend to spend a lot of time on that. So, but take it from me that there is nothing like pressure that would work.
Excuse me, sir, with your permission, maybe to make it clear-cut for us. We have seen so many cases and so many persons being extradited to Rwanda during the last few years. Rwanda today, justice is always brought into politics matters. Why do you think always that comes? Is it because they don't understand it, or they don't get or see the line between politics and justice in this country?
I think it has something to do with the whole history of our problem, which, or even the history per se of the country. First, how did justice question become so important in matters of Rwanda? Justice. All countries have justice systems. They have judiciary, they have other systems. They, even where the politics has mixed with justice matters in those other countries, it does not attract much attention as it does in Rwanda. The reason, in my understanding, is the problem that created justice to be so prominent in the matters of Rwanda. If you look at, say, genocide, as I touched on it earlier, wasn't just and ended with Rwanda, or with Rwandans and ended with Rwandans. It has a relationship with the history of colonialism, and then and religion, and politics across the world. And then in the recent days, it involves so-called human rights, it involves the media. All those also have a side their own politically, especially where they come from. The media, as you know, you tell us so much about it, how independent everybody is. But independent from what? Some or most of them, the media has where it comes from. It has affiliation. It has a relationship. You find this is why in ordinary terms, as we see openly, they tell you, oh, this media is conservative. So it is on the conservative side of politics, isn't it? This is a liberal media, so it is on the side of the liberal politics. They say, oh, that is the right-wing media or this. You know what? So why would media be right-wing, conservative, liberal? Why? If they are independent and they cut across as such, why do you think there is that problem? Or if it comes from country X, even the developed countries, you will see that the media represents in many very subtle ways the interests of where they come from, that country. Now, to the extent that these people who are the contemporary, the kinds of institutions you have to deal with, they will act in defense of where they belong. If these foreign countries or institutions or whatever got involved in the history of genocide and were part of it, in order for them to have that moral ground on which to stand on to criticize or to, they will tend to blame others except themselves. So they will necessarily have to absorb where they come from, so that where they come from and them can easily be the judges of what they are talking about. Do you get to the point? So this genocide, you see, that took place here in this country was actually, apart from the fact that it is Rwandans who killed Rwandans, it was to a big extent from outside. Its origins is from outside. And they have continued to certainly get involved in this, and they must retain the basis on which they are the ones to tell others what to do. So they must extricate themselves from the problem. And that's how the Rwandan cases become always some kind of high points of arguments and politics that will cut across the globe. So that is the. We can talk more about such a things in another setting, but for now I can stop there.
We will take the next question from Citizen Kenya.
Yeah, earlier you said there are many people from outside, yet
Yes.
I haven't heard from them. I want these outsiders to,
Citizen Kenya.
because sometimes they write about us and they want them to be informed about.
Okay.
I always see things like, where is the East African today?
The East African is
These
here.
are things about us. I thought, but I thought this was Rwandese. Rwandese East African. But you should know about Rwanda better than that. Maybe the good media, you give them something and they twist it and send it back. So we may have you to blame when it is somebody else sitting in some other place who has twisted it. But you also said there was somebody from South Africa here?
Yes, sir.
That's what you said. But if there was one, I would be interested in what they have to ask, because, or at least I'm interested in
Our-
giving anyone from outside, you give them a word, I want to
Yes, sir.
give them a piece of my mind. Yes,
Okay.
please.
Okay, my name is Sam Gituku from Citizen TV Kenya. Citizen TV is the market leader in my country, but I've also realized that there's quite some viewership here in Rwanda. And my interest is in what we've been seeing the last 2 days, Umushichirano, I hope I got that right.
Right.
And when I looked at you conducting, or rather asking your questions here, you are asking specific questions to the ministers, and I'm just wondering, why are you doing this, and what informed this way of looking at the rollout of programs, and how does it help in accountability of the government to its people? Then part two of my question is, yesterday you spoke strongly about the regional integration, and you said that some of Rwandan citizens are being victimized. By who? And finally, recently, some 2 weeks ago, there was supposed to be a summit of the heads of state in ESC. You were not there, and also Burundi wasn't there, and part of the reason why it didn't happen is because Burundi wasn't represented. As a good neighbor, do you know why they didn't appear? Are there issues that need the attention of ESC?
Do I know why I did not appear?
No, Burundi.
First one, the Umushichirano, as a way of having a dialogue on our national issues, it's to broadly discuss our affairs. It's to seek to narrow our differences in understanding of what we have to deal with and how. It's to have as many people contributing to this discussion of the national transformation agenda we have. It's really sort of to seek consensus among ourselves and maximize on being together and moving together for good results. So, and as if you followed carefully, in the discussions, people make their views known, to others raise questions, they even, talk about problems that maybe we even discussed last time, and they still come up, meaning what we had discussed last time and this time around is still a problem. So, in giving especially answers to these questions being raised, it's important that those players who on a regular basis should be dealing with these problems inform the audience what the issues are. Still steering this toward, like, for example, what we handled towards the end, when I met earlier the Prime Minister and a couple of ministers, and I said, there's something we really didn't cover that is important. And it is important that people in the audience, cross section of them, background, each one understands really what we meant, because we can't be answering the same question, and we are supposed to be working together, and each one is just giving a different answer. We need to narrow that to something that should help us move forward more productively. So if you will, then the reason for doing that, it is to seek as many inputs as we can, and have broad understanding, especially that the people who are in the room are leaders who will go back to where they came from, different levels of government, and it's better they go back having a better understanding or having a new commitment to working with the people on the ground to improve their lives. It's all about that, really. That's why we did it. One, for the East African community and whatever was said around it. First, by the way, I did not attend that. I couldn't attend two things at the same time. In fact, it happened when I was in Argentina attending the Group of 20 summit, the G20 summit. I think it happened exactly the same date. But even then, whenever there is a reason, you will find one leader or the other not attending, but countries attend. It's not, the summit, yes, involves the heads of state, but it involves even more the countries. Countries participate, and once they have representation, then it's a good. For Burundi, I've seen what has gone back and forth. One part is, from what I read and things, Burundi has sought to give an impression that actually they have no other problem except Rwanda. Well, I will not say much to that. I leave it to whoever wants to make a judgment on the basis of what they know, or what they would want to know, to be able to do that. But it is also in the same way I mentioned to you that we have had all kinds of provocations from Burundi, and we have not fallen for that. We have not been sucked into these provocations, and because I think that would be giving them what they want, and also trying to prove their point that they have no other problem except Rwanda. So that one, we have managed it, we will continue to manage it, we have no qualms about that. But the rest, there are other issues here that are not Rwanda, about Burundi, which maybe they should be helped with in finding a solution within the East African Community framework, where countries can work together to address a particular country's problems. I have heard of all kinds of stories about the person from Burundi who is the East African Community Secretary General, who has. So that can't be Rwanda. When there are issues of mismanagement and to a very high degree within the East African Community Secretariat's management, it has nothing to do with Rwanda, but that is something also that can be handled by the institutions of East African Community, that really Rwanda can contribute to, but it doesn't play a bigger role than anyone else. So going forward, I think our record is very clear, how we have intended to do everything within our power as a country, Rwanda, to promote regional integration, to promote the well-being and cooperation of everyone, with everyone in the region, and we will continue to do so. I have heard also all kinds of stories and read in some of the things being said, oh, Rwanda is not interested in the East African community. In fact, when I heard you say that I was not there in this last summit, I thought that's what you are coming to, because that's what some other people said. So, but it seems it was not what you are saying. Secondly, I have heard something saying, you know, I think Rwanda and Burundi, well, they don't talk about South Sudan. They talk about Rwanda and Burundi, that maybe they were not ready to join East Africa. They should have been made to wait. On that, I just I hope one day that will come up, maybe with me, whether in the media or with anybody. I have something to say, whoever to whoever thinks like that. That one, on record, there isn't anyone who can claim to be working better for East Africa than ourselves, than Rwanda. Rwanda, no, there isn't anyone. Second, Rwanda to have joined the East African community was our choice, but I think it was also our right. And I would tell whoever that it wasn't anybody doing us a favor. When we joined the East African community, we had not been kneeling down to people or bowing to people to give us this great favor, for which people can keep pointing fingers at us. I don't think anyone. We thought it was a good thing. We thought it was the right thing. We thought it was actually our right to be there. And we benefit from others, and we benefit others as well. This is why we joined the East African community. Otherwise, if East African community was a monopoly of some few, and that was the basis on which they created it, then I think it was a wrong premise from the beginning. So count on me and inform those you reach that Rwanda isn't anybody going to contribute better towards the integration and the cohesion of the East African community than we are trying to do. Right?
Your Excellency, we can hear next from our colleague from Uganda.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I used to be only just Ugandan from Rwanda.
Okay.
My name's Frederick Gorowam.
You live at the border?
No, I live in both. My name's Frederick Gorowam TV. I am a columnist for the East African newspaper, the one you said write funny things about Rwanda these days. The question I would like to ask Your Excellency is about the AU reforms which you have been spearheading over the past more than 1 year, even before you became chairman. During this time that you have been leading these efforts, what would you say has surprised you, if anything? Whether it's in the way your fellow leaders have reacted to these reforms, or whatever it is that you may have found surprising or unexpected. The other question is, I would like, if you will allow me, Your Excellency, to return to the issue of the East African community. There is a time when we in this region, or at least those who preoccupy themselves with things of this kind, when we were very optimistic that after the failures of the 1970s, that the new East African community would move very rapidly towards complete integration. Now, in your opening speech, you sounded as if that's not the case, and I think that people who observe closely would agree that it's not the case.
That what?
That it's not the case, that there are problems with integration. How optimistic are you that these problems can be resolved in the short to medium term? Thank you.
Good. I don't think there is much to point to in terms of surprises relating to the African Union reforms, because the reasons for people demanding reforms have been there for a long time, so people have been thinking about that even before they were actually worked on. So we understood there was, I would, for example, I would have said, oh, I was surprised that actually so many people across the continent actually are very supportive or wanted of these reforms or supportive of these reforms. And no, but that's not a surprise, because I think I have known that, and many other people, my colleagues or the team I worked with, people have known that the reforms has been long overdue, that there was always a need for us to do things differently, to have different approaches to how the African continent can come together, work together, and this thing has been, but it wasn't ever implemented in real terms. That's one. So I wouldn't. That's not one of the things I would say they surprise me, much as they are real, and I like it that many people wanted it or want it. But I think the second also that you would maybe somebody can say, I was surprised that this country or that country has been slow or has really been against or this leader or that. Again, I don't want to count that as a surprise, because all of us also know that for any change, for which reforms are, there will always be people who, even if they cannot give reasons, or good reasons, convincing reasons, they will still be hesitant about change. They tend to stick with the old thing, even without giving reasons. So I'm aware of that again. When it happens, I'm not surprised. But of course, you see it as a problem, but you have known it as a problem. It isn't a surprise. So we haven't been dealing with too many surprises really in this area. If it is, there's so many people who really wanted this change to happen, we have known that they were there. If there are a few who are hesitant, who stick to the old ways, or who are saying, yes, we want it, but then in the evening they do something else, when in the morning they were saying that, that's also something I know that relates to change in any situation. I would not say I was surprised in any way, but instead I was happy that progress has been made. And progress has been made with these two sides. And I think the side that has probably pushed harder and driven the agenda than those who might have not wanted the change to happen, or to happen as fast as we all have wished. So that's not on the first question. I don't think we would be surprised by anything. And now on the East African community one, first of all, it's good that the East African community came together again and tried to follow or build on what the East African community was before. It's a good thing that has happened. It's the best thing that could happen in this region for us to be having it. And along the way, institutions of the community have been built, different guidelines are in place, things are happening, they are moving. But in the same way I was answering the first question, you will find there's always going to be, human beings, we are complicated. What I said also at the opening of this Mushichirano, the East African community requires give and take. Any integration efforts requires you release a little bit. What you would say, no, because you know the stories about sovereignty. Sovereignty, people say, you can't touch this. This is my sovereignty. Every country has its own sovereignty. True. But when you have decided to go for integration, you also understand that some of it will be ceded to, you let go some aspects of it. How much or which one is not what I'm talking about, but each country will decide overall to say, I will submit to the urgency, to the importance of integration. So some things will happen, the people involved will come together and create something that is bigger than just the sovereignty of each entity in some aspects to which they submit to. That's what I call the give and take. But in that process, you don't expect everybody to be doing as well as the other. We all have different things. You will find people will be faulted on. But then when it becomes so prominent that somebody says, well, in the East African community, I must have this. But you are not mindful of what somebody else also wants to have. Then the East African, the integration process is affected in some form or another. If it was something that was supposed to connect you, all of you, and you say, no, me, I want to connect there, not there, then the other one will say, no, but we are connected in any case. You don't want to connect it with or to me, or you want to delay it, but on a daily basis we are connected. We have to do things together. So it's in a way complex, but dependent on the players. If people talk, and And I'm optimistic. You asked about that question. The optimism lies in the fact that we can keep talking about these things and arguing for certain things to happen in the integration process with each other. Again, we reach that point where we show each other that, when I give you this and you give me this, we are both better off than if we give to each other nothing, or if we just give one and the other one doesn't give back. Emphasizing that discussion or that way of approach will help, but already there are things that have happened that give me the optimism, because we are not starting afresh. We are not starting from nothing. We are starting from something that is already ongoing and understanding and just needs to be improved on a regular basis and taken further than where it is today. So that is, and those summits you heard people are talking about, in the summits, people discuss, analyze, and say, why didn't we get this? Why didn't we do this? Then we go through it. The explanations are sought, and maybe next time by another summit, we see that something has moved. But it's not only that. It's when the politics involved across borders is not so clear, is infringement on the rights of this and of the other, but still there is a way to sort it out. So that's my take. Wrong things may happen, or things that shouldn't be happening happen, like infringing on each other's security. I think the question was asked earlier, and no, but you can't have integration without people. People are the ones who actually relate first in integration, and then things start happening. The infrastructure, the other things happen, but the people have to integrate, have to relate with each other, that will encourage that integration to happen. So it's a political world we live in, and we must know how to manage and keep doing our best to manage.
Next, we shall hear from our colleague from Cameroon.
So maybe this time we finish with this one, or is there any other one we
Yes,
have?
we can just take.
Where are you from?
From Reuters.
From Reuters. Okay, you and then the Reuters, and then we are done.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I'm called Camden.
Where are you from?
Cameroon.
I mean, the next one in front of you who is... you want to ask me what you know, or what I know? Okay, let's quickly handle these two, and then you can see how to proceed with others.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I'm called Camden Swap. I'm a promoter of two media specialized on decentralization, local governance, and local. But with your permission, I will take the advantage that I know you are comfortable in more than one language to ask my question in French.
You want to do it in French?
Surtout que le Rwanda.
I'm slowly, I've been very slow in integrating in Francophonie, but it's coming along. Let me see, I think that I can hear. Yes?
C'est justement parce que le Rwanda préside aux destinées de l'Organisation internationale de la francophonie que je me permets de poser mes questions en français. Monsieur le Président, quel a été le pari le plus difficile que vous avez eu à tenir lorsque vous êtes entré en fonction? Quel était le pari le plus difficile à tenir? Ensuite, depuis 2 jours, et lorsqu'on fouille les archives sur l'événement qui nous rassemble ici, Umushi Kirano, on se rend compte que la question de la mémoire est extrêmement importante dans les échanges et la reconstruction du pays. 16 ans plus tard, avez-vous le sentiment que l'idée de base que vous aviez en tête au moment de lancer un tel concept a réussi à prendre véritablement ancrage au sein des populations au point de vous survivre? Et lorsqu'on songe que les processus de décentralisation en Afrique connaissent des formats divers et des avancées diverses, avez-vous le sentiment que l'articulation entre la gouvernance au niveau de l'État et la gouvernance au niveau local ont trouvé suffisamment de ressources dans ce concept pour que l'appropriation des solutions, des initiatives et des initiatives et infrastructures que l'État crée à l'intention des populations à la base sont suffisamment appropriées par elles? Et je me permettrai de finir par une dernière question, Monsieur le Président. Vous êtes le président en exercice de l'Union africaine.
That is too much French already, but keep going.
Vous êtes le président en exercice de l'Union africaine pour quelque temps encore. Vous avez sans doute appris ce qui se passe au Cameroun avec 2 crises qui agitent ce pays, notamment la crise dite anglophone et la crise post-électorale après les élections du 7 octobre dernier. Quel est votre regard sur cette double crise et pour le leadership que la classe politique camerounaise attend de vous dans la résolution de ce conflit? Que pouvez-vous faire? Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Right. The most challenging thing in my position, you started saying, right? Sorry? As president? Okay. Well, any leadership or responsibility challenge is real well, even more real in certain situations than others. In our case, where we started from the whole history, bit by bit, we found we had some responsibility, but the context that defined it made even that responsibility more complicated. Whether it was before the war or during the war period, I mean, by the way, is not just here in Rwanda. We got involved in wars in other parts of the world where we used to live. Years in Uganda, then a number of years here in my country, under different circumstances and contexts, with certain responsibilities, however small or big. So then when we are here, all that kept preparing us to this position. So depending therefore on the context and circumstances, leadership role can be more complicated. One role can be more complicated than the other. But at the same time also, the higher you go in terms of responsibility, the more complicated things become. you keep carrying more burden. The higher you go, and things become more complicated because you are dealing with the broader things than initially you were at a lower level. So And in this particular case, again, referring to the history also, it's not sometimes to be seen as if one is just in a certain place by accident. Well, we can say by accident in one form, but because it could have been something else, not that. But what is constant is all along there is what you sort out, you sought to achieve or to do to achieve something. In our case, the many years of struggle for a country that we did not have. But what is a country? Is it just anything you call a country and it is yours and you seek to have a country, you seek to contribute to do something that will make this country as good as it can happen, as good as you can and others achieve that you deserve. So the complication, therefore, the problem, the challenge, a unique one I face, if you say that, is to say, well, how do we put things together for a country we deserve to be there? What do we do to sustain it, to make sure that you're not doing well just for a day and then the next day what you are building collapses. So it drives you, but at the same time it challenges you every single day, and but you will find people are doing that differently from others, and some do better than others, and so there are many factors that it's not just, it's not something mathematical that when you do this, then this happens, and there are many unknowns also, and things. So that's how it has been. It's a challenge. It's a big thing. Because you carry your own responsibility, but you seem to carry other people's responsibilities as well. So it keeps changing. So that is number one. The other question on decentralization and a number of things that have been happening, whether we have sufficient infrastructure. I answered it in a simple way that what we are doing or what we get involved with on a daily basis, even when you think you are doing your best, you've given everything all you have, there is always a feeling that you are not doing enough. You do your best, but you never do enough. There's always something lacking. But that's why building is important. You cannot achieve everything in a single day, but you can achieve so much step by step. And the step, again, can be longer depending on what you have to deal with. So as we discuss here our own challenges, as we look at everybody's responsibility at a lower level, mid-level, higher level, we are trying to see how much we can maximize on the results we get and put together. We are able to measure and say, where are we from the point where we started. even in terms of resources that we give to decentralization or in the process of decentralization at different levels. We give them resources or they generate resources from within. Actually, we sometimes ask them for more than they are able to achieve with the resources we have given them. But maybe that's the best way to do it. You keep trying to say, use the resources the best way you can, achieve as much or even more than you actually thought you would get by the same resources. Again, it's not a clear-cut issue. It's complex. Sometimes even there is a waste of resources. They don't go where they are supposed to go. Even when all the resources are available, they don't go maybe where they are supposed to go. So that is what happens. But I think what we have in place is the best thing we can have, at least for this time. If along the way we find we need to improve something, then we will go ahead and do it without any impediment. If we need to change direction to get better results, we will change direction. But there is no point in saying, go slow. If you are in a direction you believe you are in, try to move as hard and as fast as you can, and that's what we keep seeking every day. But decentralization helps to get everybody involved, or more people involved than those who are not. If you can eliminate a case where there are no, if you can create an environment where nobody is left out, then that's what you want to do. So now you asked me something about Cameroon. And what? Okay.
The Anglophone crisis since 3 years now, and the political crisis that started on October with the last presidential election as president of UA.
You see,
AU.
Answering this question is going to be very simple for me, on the basis that I'm very ignorant about it. So I will not say much about it because I don't know. I've heard in terms of what is happening, but I haven't dived deep into. So I would hesitate to discuss it or to make comments. But I am also aware that the African Union Commission and others are paying attention to it. It has been escalating to some other levels. So I will not be very helpful in this case because I'm not comfortable with the facts or the analysis available to me about this situation, unfortunately, which I should have because it's an African situation. But there are other cases like that on our continent where I wouldn't say much because I don't know much or because I haven't been involved in that. And I wish there's anything I can contribute, I could contribute.
Your Excellency, as you directed, sir, we'll take the next question from Reuters.
Mm-hmm. Many thanks, Mr. President. My name is Clement Urinjiman, and I work with Reuters. As you said that we've had, and you said those challenges remain. And recently we heard there was a fighting in the western part of Rwanda with FDLR. We wanted to get clarity on that, how many people died. We heard there were casualties and fatalities. And if we could get, Mr. President, the progress. What is the progress on Bugesera Airport? When is it due to be?
Of?
Bugesera Airport. In the past, we had also there was a plan to get some funding from Exim Bank of China of the railway. From
Of what?
The new railway.
Okay.
Yeah, how far has it gone? Still on the security question, you talked of other groups.
How many questions are
No,
those now?
just for that security question, you talked of other groups joining FDLR. How big is the threat?
First of all, FDLR, then you said
Then the Bugesera Airport
Bugesera.
and the railway, the Exim Bank of China helping to get fundings.
Railway stroke Exim Bank.
Yeah, and for security, the FDLR. Thanks.
And then security?
Other groups joining FDLR. How big is the threat?
Okay. On the first one, which I mean, both of them could be handled together. The first and the last, I think, they're all FDLR. The first one, it's true. Recently, some group crossed from DRC and very close to our border. They didn't go deeper. It was more or less at the border. And attacked positions. There was a small detachment somewhere more or less as an observation post, what was going on. I think were killed a couple, meaning 2, 3. We are still gathering sufficient information in terms of where they came from, the assistance they had, and so on. Then a number of them were killed when they crossed. Others actually they died on the other side. They were carried by their friends and taken back. So the numbers, I would be more comfortable later on when our own people concerned directly will talk about that. And we are seeking clarification and cooperation from the authorities in Congo, cooperation in understanding what facilitated this to happen, or why it should have happened at all, and I'm sure we will reach a good understanding of what the two sides will reach a good understanding of what it needs to follow. To make sure that we understand what happened, we make sure that nothing like that happens again, and then we move forward. So the groups with FDR, there's another group called RNC, which we have understood 6 and has been getting together with FDRR. We learned recently and not so long ago, they've been having collaboration based in, they also meet and discuss and without having to state names, but don't have too many neighbors. There are few. So they are working together and we monitor it, but we are more concerned with what will happen or what happens here that we take care of. So you have heard of something called RNC?
Through the media, yes.
Yeah, sure. It does exist. There are many other groups. I said some names, I don't know them. But they call them all kinds of names, or themselves all kinds of names. So, but we take care of that. We take care of the names and everything else. Bugesera, first, the plans are clear. In fact, recently, what is happening, there is the airport was, the design was all over with what we wanted to do. Then later on, there was a reason we wanted to make improvement, meaning improvement in the design, in the quality, and even expand it. But the works started. So that is happening as we are, meaning restructuring, redesign is happening as the works are also going on. The contractor is on the ground, everything, except a few things. So we should be doing well with the airport soon. And the plan is to finish it in not too long a time. I don't need to state the exact time, but it's not too long. I don't want to bias the contractors. I don't want to state the time and then they say, oh, you know, we could have done that in a shorter time, but the president thinks it should be this long, so let's take this long. That's why I'm not stating the time. But it's in a good way. It's going well. It's a sure project. Then the railway, we've been working. You know, there has been an East African infrastructure master plan that includes railway, energy, transmission lines, and so on. So there is a part, therefore, that serves differently one country and another, but so we are discussing how to take it forward with a number of our neighbors, two neighbors really, because, well, more than that, because if there is a railway coming from or through Tanzania, then we are discussing with the Tanzanian authorities how best we can expedite that, and where does it start, where does it end. These are discussions that are ongoing and are also advanced, but on the basis of the designs. Then if it is through Kenya, Uganda to Rwanda, the path to follow is also clear, or there are different options, because we could go through Kenya, come up to Kampala, and then all the way to here. Or there are possibly other alternatives from one point of Kenya, like Kisumu, you cross the water, use the waterway, and then you come and land somewhere in Uganda or Tanzania, and then you find which gives you the best option, or that is cost, or what is cost effective. Those have been looked at and are being handled by the authorities on whichever side of the countries. Working together, we should soon have. So the Exim Bank of China, there are many actually. Is that what you said? Yeah, no, it's not just Exim Bank of China. There are many funds, fund institutions that have actually interest in funding this infrastructure. So we are talking to a number of them. And we have also been encouraging that we talk to them in collaboration with the countries that were or that have interest in whichever portion of the railway country. So we talk with whoever we are talking, with Tanzania or with Uganda or with Kenya, so that we put all these things together in a cost-effective way.
For a matter of clarity, you talked of a couple of soldiers on Rwandan side and a number of others from the attackers.
Sorry?
When you talked of the attack in Rubavu, did you say a couple of soldiers from Rwandan side and a number
Sure.
of... Okay.
Yeah.
With your permission, Your Excellency, we can take one last question from our social media influencers. Gatete?
I thought the social media people were already doing their bit with everyone. So,
Thank you very much. My name is Gatete Nyingabo. I have a comment instead.
why don't you take all these things you have said, put them together and pick what you want? Okay, but go ahead with the...
I wanted to make a comment about the economy, sir.
With what?
About the economy and the report that we got from the National Institute of Statistics. And the discussion this afternoon was about defaulting on loans, SACCO loans, but it remained on loans. It didn't talk about some of the reasons. One of the reasons of defaulting on these loans is because when people take the loans, the nature of the market in which they're going to work is dynamic and changes. As a result, where they expected to get a job, for instance, they cannot get this job anymore because it's been taken by another contractor, or the standards required to fulfill a service have changed. So in this country, we keep innovating a lot, but sometimes the cost of the innovation is on a person who asked for a loan without predicting that innovation.
Yeah, but are you saying when things are static, there are no economic problems?
That's not what I'm saying. In fact, I'm pro the innovation, but I'm also saying that sometimes...
I'm trying to get the question properly. Let me understand it well. What is is it a question? Is it a point you are making?
It's a point I'm trying to make.
That what? Still, I haven't understood it.
Let me give you an example.
Sure.
So if there are people who are rendering a service like taxi drivers.
Yes.
And they have to acquire the taxi, and they have understood how much they have to make and how much they have to pay taxes for. Now, an investor, comes up with an innovation, which is a good innovation, which is to put a meter in that taxi. Now, this meter was not factored by the taximan when he has to give up 10% of his income extra to what he was paying in terms of taxes. But this is the nature of the market when the loan was being acquired. And the nature of the market in which this person who acquired the loan is going to operate has changed. As a result, this person might default. But that was an anecdote. But I'm talking about this broadly.
But it seems it's not just an anecdote. It seems something you have in mind to raise. But in any case, whether it's a point you are making or an anecdote, that is, as a part of the economy and the dynamics in the economy, it's a much small thing. You are talking about one group, one area, but there are thousands of them, different areas. So you picked on one to give an example, but that's okay. Second, you have forgotten another thing. Even the one who buys a loan to buy a taxi, right? A car. he doesn't stop, for example, the prices of fuel going up, or it's like that. It's another dynamic that steps in without knowing or without the choice of this person who bought the taxi on a loan, isn't it? Still, it is going fuel that you have to put in your car may be more since we are using more or less the worst case scenario. I won't say the lower, but let me use the higher like you are using. So tax fuel price might double, right? This you can't stop. There are certain things that have to happen. But there are a number of ways to mitigate that as well. You don't look at just it's something else what has gone on? You take it away. But there are a number of things that can happen. One is actually when you're going into that kind of business, there are things you factor in, the unknowns you may want to take care of. That happens. That's why in some discussions or some considerations, people will even factor in the level of inflation. You don't know whether it will come down or go up or by how much, but you factor it in that. Or, in fact, what also happens is that maybe the tax person will factor this, will price this in what he's going to charge. You see, so things can never remain static. You've got to figure out how to deal with the changes that you see or you know, or the changes that you don't know that may happen. You still have to think about some of these things that are known. There is something else that is costly that maybe is not even in this. And part of the discussion we did. It's people not doing exactly what they were even supposed to do, both ends. I'll give you an example. Some banks have been given money so that, part of what we discussed earlier, you've given money to try and address or make it easy for people to get along within the economy. Like the VUP money that was going through the circle. There are many things you've got to, that's why follow-up is important, which we are not good at, all of us, I think. I've seen one thing to another. One, you saw how this money was given through, was being dispensed through SACCO, and then the operation was like, this money belongs to SACCO. But it was not their money, it was money could have done, is maybe to make a charge, a service charge. You say, since I receive your money and distribute it for you, I'll charge you this. Meaning they are charging the one who is taking money through them. That did not happen or did not happen well. But the person who spent the money assumed because there is a circle that through which the money is going, and you spent money called for VUP, you thought the problem was solved. Just because you did that, you think the problem is solved. No. The problem is not solved until it is solved, and that is by doing things that you need to do. So what affects the economy is not one small thing only, it's the totality of these things. And it's also the people at every level who may not be doing what they knew they were even supposed to do. You see it. So the person, I heard something like that, but I think it's a bit of confusion. You talked about technology introduced in a taxi or in a motorbike or something. These technologies have their own, they are part of this whole value chain of whichever business you are doing. Now, but if you sat back and try to analyze how this technology can be used, it can enhance whatever economic activity and the benefits of people involved in between, you will get it. But if you sit back and just complain about something, then you will really have problems. Absolutely. You may even say, why is the source of technology only one, not three, not four, not five? But that means you have forgotten something. It's a market of some size you are talking about. So is it a size of the economy in which you can have 10 players involved? Does it make sense? Is it 3? Is it 1? It's like in the telecommunications. Would you say, no, why do we have 2 operators? Why don't we have 10? If somebody asks that question in disregard of the size of the market within which these players are playing, it's not a very intelligent question. You've got to relate all those things. You want to have more. But if you can't have more players as operators at that level, you can actually multiply more players where that can happen. Instead of having 10,000 people, you may even end up having 20,000. You see what I mean? So you have to look at it holistically and then make the corrections you want to make that you find they have merit. Is that along the lines of the question you're asking? Good. So you got some material for your blog? You can add many other things we said. So all right, I'm done if you are done.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And on behalf of the media fraternity, we would like to wish you, Your Excellency, and your family a Merry Christmas and a happy and prosperous New Year.
Same to you all. Thank you.
Have a good afternoon, sir.
It has been a long time.
How overdue?
You didn't ask your question.
ngira ngo rero nk'uko mwabikurikiraga ko bari bakurikiye televiziyo y'u Rwanda, ikiganiro cyari ikiganiro cy'abanyamakuru na Perezida wa Repubulika Paul Kagame kigeze ku musozo. Mu bibazo abanyamakuru bagiye bagarukaho cyane, bagiye bagaruka ku bijyanye n'umutekano ndetse